Is Mukesh Aghi, President and CEO of the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, and K.C. Singh, former Indian ambassador to Iran. Mukesh Aghi, we're not among the top trading countries with Iran. Having said that, do you think India will be a victim of these 25% tariffs now? Could the tariffs on India become 75%? No one knows what these tariffs mean. The White House has said that you'll have to refer to what Donald Trump has said on Truth Social.
Well, Parikshit, basically 25% additional tariff exports to Iran, if you look at India's export, as you mentioned, is roughly $1.6 billion. So impact on India's economy is minimal. But overall, the question you have to ask is will this impact partnership with the US, which is 50%, will go up to 75%? And see, the answer is yes. And that's where I think we have to look at as to how we manage this, because it's a little complicated. It's not just about tariffs coming in from the US on Iran, but also the European countries are doing it. But it puts India in a very, very difficult position. And I think having 75% will definitely impact India's exports to the United States. But more important is, I think, having only 1.6 billion exports to Iran, India can manage that.
Right. Ambassador K.C. Singh, what's your sense? And I'm reading some information that we've received via government sources. They've said that for India, Iran does not figure in the top 50 global trading partners. India's trade value with Iran is expected to further go down in this current fiscal year, given external economic factors. Iran's total imports were about 68 billion in 2024, of which the leading partners in the order of trade volume were UAE, 30% or $21 billion. Then you had China at $17 billion or 26%, Turkey $11 billion, then EU at $6 billion, and India's share was just about 1.2 billion or 2.3%. 25% tariffs announced by the US on trade partners of Iran is likely to have minimal impact on India. This is what sources in the government say. Do you think this indicates that India may go ahead now, stop all trade with Iran?
Even if you do it, you said you were reducing the import of Russian oil. Did America set aside the punitive tariffs they had put? You see, when they announce these tariffs, they're not giving you any lead time. They're not giving you any period in which it will not be applicable, in which you do what they want, and then it becomes applicable. It's just he just announces them, and you don't know when they become applicable. Now, how can you stop it completely? The trade this year already products have gone. Now, how do you establish that hereafter we'll not send any products? But I think the signal that is coming out of this is that regime change for the time being is off the table. Which means that they've realized that the demonstrations are not getting boosted the way they wanted, and it's not likely to remove the current regime in Iran. Because otherwise, what is the point of stopping trade with them? Tariffs are normally meant, you're supposed to cut off the trade to put pressure on the Iranian regime. No, which means that they don't think enough pressure has already been applied on the Iranian regime, and the street has not been able to do it. So they have to bring in the tariff weapon. So I don't buy this argument from the government, because now you'll go around explaining to them, we will do this, we'll not do that, and completely ruin your relationship with Iran, which is what I think President Trump wants. He wants you to be completely in his corner, deal only with countries he thinks you should be dealing with. So where is the autonomy in all this? Where is your autonomous behavior? So I think India has to take a call somewhere. This can't go on. And especially when the German chancellor has been here, they're also facing that. I think that is something which Prime Minister would have discussed with him. That, look, let's do a FTA. Why are we dragging feet on that? We should open up new markets, open up new places that we can trade with. Let America take a hike. I think you have to either accept that, or you have to then just be an American sidekick and do whatever the Americans want and follow a foreign policy which is made in the State Department.
Absolutely. Ambassador Mr. Mukesh Aghi, we had seen in the case of penalty tariffs as a result of Russian oil. Those penalty tariffs were not imposed on China, for that matter. And we've always seen double standards when it comes to Europe and China and then the treatment meted out to India. So do you also feel that when it comes to these prohibitive tariffs linked to countries doing business with Iran, it would be easy for Donald Trump to make a statement by putting that additional 25% on India? Is that your worry?
Well, you have to understand that it's about leverage. China has leverage over the US, especially in the critical mineral and other areas. And that's where India lacks the leverage. The question is basically, how do you manage that? So far, I think the MEA and the government of India has done a great job keeping the communication open, protecting its exports. Yes, some of its exports, especially in garment and others areas, are getting impacted, but its services export continues to grow. So with time, and you heard Ambassador Gore mention yesterday that there will be a trade discussion. There will be some kind of understanding. And what we hear in Washington, D.C. is it's time that the U.S. and India come to some kind of a trade agreement, take out the punitive tariffs, which are 25%, and beyond that itself. So we are hopeful that sometime this quarter, there will be understanding between India and the U.S. to have a proper trade deal, so at least goods can flow much more seamlessly between the two countries.
Right. Ambassador K.C. Singh, asking you about the Chabahar port now. In October, we had received a waiver extension by 6 months that was due to expire in April this year. Now, with this post of Donald Trump on Truth Social, do you think we'll have to seek a clarification from the United States whether that waiver still exists or has been scrapped?
I think with President Trump, it's always good to get a clarification because you don't know what exactly he has in mind. He may just change it on the spot. He may just, it can be quite arbitrary or logical. It depends on what kind of a mood he's in. So I think it's important to check it because most of these things are just decided on the spot. He announces, and then they start looking at a way to implement it. I would imagine if he's trying to put pressure on Iran, he's not going to give you another extension. If that is the intention, that they think that the pressure from the street has not worked, and they are afraid to unleash a military attack, or they haven't fully prepared for it as yet, because that can have implications in the entire Gulf region or the region in entirety. But the sign that he had to announce this, I see it as a sign of weakness. Which means they're out of option at the moment. So they're using now tariffs as a weapon until they've handled what they said. The Iranians have reached out to them, some kind of a proposal on the table. There is a debate on in Iran where some are saying, why are we making the nuclear issue such a big issue? We can always put it aside. Let's move ahead with the country. So there's a debate within Iran that is going on. And I think what we've seen is that President Trump tends to favor the Venezuelan kind of solution, which is he doesn't want to expend the energy which is required to depose a complete system. It's to just get this system to do some temporary changes, but essentially comply with his requests, give him access, and then he loosens the rope around your neck after that. So I think at the moment, maybe even the Americans are buying time. To see what exactly Iran has in mind.
Right. Mr. Aghi, my final question to you. Do you think now this is going to be the first big challenge of Sergio Gore? Are you still hopeful of a trade deal in the coming weeks?
No, absolutely. I think it's important. It makes economic sense for both countries to come to understanding. So there is a smooth trade happening, not only just on the trade side. I think when you look at India getting into critical supply chain, that's important. Yesterday, we had Minister Vaishnav in Washington, D.C., talking about a much more extended partnership between the two countries. So I think our focus between the two countries should not be diverted by the trade issue. The relationship is much, much broader, bigger, and deeper itself. Yes, trade is an irritant, and hopefully we can find a solution between the two countries and take things forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Aghi and Ambassador K.C. Singh for joining us.